All right, 26. If a grasshopper could hop on a cannonball passing overhead, I could conceive perhaps how something from outer space could fit to a moving Earth, explore a while, and then hop off. But suppose we have to accept that there have been instances of just such enterprise and agility relatively to the planet Venus. Irrespective of our notion that it may be that sometimes a vessel sails to this Earth from Venus and returns, there are striking data indicating that, whether conceivable or not, luminous objects have appeared from somewhere, or presumably from outer space, and have been seen temporarily suspended over the planet Venus. This is in accord with our indications that there are regions in the sky suspended over and near this Earth. It looks bad for our inference that this Earth is stationary, but it is the supposed rotary motion of this Earth more than the supposed orbital motion that seems to us would dislodge such neighboring bodies. And all astronomers, except those who say that Venus rotates in about 24 hours, say that Venus rotates in about 224 days, a velocity that would generate little centrifugal force. I have a note upon the determined luminosity that was bent upon Saturn as its objective. In the English Mechanics 63-496, a correspondent writes that upon July 13, 1896, he saw through his telescope from 10 until 11:15 p.m., after which the planet was too near the horizon for good seeing, a luminous object moving near Saturn. He saw it pass several small stars. It was certainly going towards Saturn at a good rate. There may be swifts of the sky that can board planets, if they can swoop on and off on and shit. If they can swoop on and off an Earth moving at a rate of 19 miles a second, disregarding rotation, because entrance at a pole may be thought of, why then, for all I know, smaller things do ride on cannonballs. Of course, if our data that indicate that the supposed solar system or the geosystem is to an enormous degree smaller than is conventionally taught be accepted, the orbital velocity of Venus is far cut down. About the last of August 1873, Brussels, 8 o'clock in the evening, rising above the horizon into the clear sky, was seen a star-like object. It mounted higher and higher until about 10 minutes later it disappeared. It seemed that this conspicuous object did appear in a local sky and was therefore not far from this Earth. If it were not a fire balloon, one supposes that it did come from outer space and then returned. Perhaps a similar thing that visited the moon and was then seen sailing away. In the Astronomical Register 23-205, Professor Scharfarik of Prague writes that upon April 24th, 1874, he saw an object of so peculiar a nature that I do not know what to make of it. He saw a dazzling white object slowly traversing the disk of the moon. He had not seen it approaching the moon. He watched it after it left the moon, September 27, 1881, South Africa, an object that was seen near the moon by Colonel Marwick, like a comet, but moving rapidly. Our chief interest is in objects like ships that have boarded this moving Earth with the agility of a Columbus, who could dodge a San Salvador and throw out an anchor to the American coast, screeching past him at a rate of 19 miles a second, or in objects that have come as close as atmospheric conditions or unknown conditions would permit to the bottom of a kind of stationary sea. We now graduate Captain Noble to the extra-geographic fold. In Knowledge 4-173, Captain Noble writes that at 10:35 o'clock night of August 28, 1883, he saw in the sky something like a new and most glorious comet. First, he saw something like the tail of a comet, or it was like a searchlight, according to Captain Noble's sketch of it in Knowledge. Then Captain Noble saw the nucleus from which this light came. It was a brilliant object. Upon page 207, W.K. Bragate writes that at 12:40 a.m., August 29th, at Liverpool, he saw an object like the planet Jupiter, a ray of light emanating from it. Upon the nights of September 11th and 13th, Professor Swift saw at Rochester, New York, an unknown object like a comet, perhaps in the local sky of Rochester, inasmuch as it was reported from nowhere else. In Knowledge 4-219, Mrs. Harbin writes that upon the night of September 21st at Yaleville, she saw the same brilliant searchlight-like light that had been seen by Captain Noble, but that it had disappeared before she could turn her telescope upon it. And several months later, a similar object was seen, obviously not far away, but in the local sky of Puerto Rico and then of Ohio. It may be better not to say at this time that we have data for thinking that a vessel carrying something like a searchlight visited this Earth and explored for several months over regions as far apart as England and Puerto Rico. Just at present, it is enough to record that something that was presumably not a fire balloon appeared in the sky of England, close to this Earth, if seen nowhere else, and in 2 hours traversed the distance of about 200 miles between Sussex and Liverpool. August 22nd, 1885, Saigon, Cochin, China, according to Lieutenant Revelry of the vessel Goober 2. Object like a magnificent red star, but larger than a planet Venus. It moved no faster than a cloud in a moderate wind, observed 7 or 8 minutes, then disappearing behind clouds. In this book, it may be frustrated desire to subordinate the theme of this Earth's stationariness. My subject is new lands, things, objects, beings that are, or may be the data of coming expansions. But the stationariness of this Earth cannot be subordinated. It is crucial. Again, there is no use discussing possible explorations beyond this Earth if this Earth moves at a rate of 19 miles a second or 19 miles a minute. As to voyagers who may come to or near this Earth from other planets, how could they leave and return to swiftly moving planets? According to our principles of extrageography, the planets move part of the time with the revolving stars, the remotest planets remaining in, under, or near one constellation years at a time. Anything that could reach and then travel from a swiftly revolving constellation in the ecliptic could arrive at a stellar polar region where, relatively to the central stationary body, there is no motion.